evening and welcome in, everyone. My name is Kaylee, and I'm the health coach working with Dr. Cooper here at In Harmony. We are very excited to have you here this evening. Before we begin, I would like to share a little bit of information about Dr. Cooper. Dr. Dana Cooper is a board-certified chiropractic physician and certified functional medicine practitioner who focuses on restoring the body to maximum health naturally. He's a native of Daytona Beach, Florida. He endeavors to share his passion for family health by providing care the Harmony way. He first encountered the power of natural medicine when he studied and explored the practices of indigenous tribes on his trip to Costa Rica. Returning from his pilgrimage, he continued his journey at Palmer College of Chiropractic here in Florida, where he began developing his holistic practices. He is proficient in techniques such as nutrition, diversified method, flexion distraction, activator, and soft tissue therapy. Dr. Cooper continued his journey to provide top-tier holistic health by way of functional medicine. This would help him to treat, prevent, and support even the most difficult health concerns his community presented, such as nutritional imbalance, leaky gut, SIBO, acid reflux, fatigue, obesity, and more. Dr. Cooper and his practices have been honored in programs such as Best of Cabarrus County, the Cultivu Exhibition, City Beat News, Spectrum Award, Voyage Magazine, and more. But his greatest honor is to be here with you today.
Thank you, Kaylee, for that distinction, and thank you everybody who has hopped on here now. If you know somebody who does not have access to this yet, or maybe they're working their way on here, just let them know. Nudge them, send them a text, say, "Hey, they're talking about something that I think you may want to know something about." Tell them kindly because we're talking about belly fat. So you got to be nice to people, of course. Feel free along the way to ask questions. We will have a bit of a Q&A at the end of this session as well. And so we'll kind of make our way through some of the material, but feel free to jump in the comments and make some comments about anything that maybe you have questions about. And we would love to answer those questions as we go. But once again, welcome everybody. I am Dr. Cooper. You just heard from Kaylee, who is our designated health coach here associated with the clinic, and she is fantastic. If you've not got a chance to have some one-on-ones with her, you'll be blown away by how she can help you really make things practical in your life. And as we're making changes, oftentimes it's hard to make those changes practical. And so she really takes it a step further, what we're doing here in the clinic. And so today, as you have already figured out, we'll be talking a little bit about how to lose belly fat and how to do so using the functional medicine approach that we use right here in downtown DeLand, Florida. If you're here, go ahead and drop something in the comments, say hello, go ahead and like and subscribe, but we want to know that you're there. I see you, but we want to know that you're there. Right into the meat of this. So when we're talking about waist loss, this means that we're probably targeting specific areas when we're not actually focusing on actually losing unhealthy weight. What I mean by that is you looking at your weight scale doesn't really differentiate, muscle versus water versus fat. Your weight scale typically doesn't tell you that much about that. And so when we're focusing on losing waist, or when we're focusing on waist loss, this means that we're really targeting areas that are vital to our health. So a part of the functional medicine model here in Harmony Chiropractic is to help you to lock in and key in areas that are even more important than just general weight loss. And if you're one of those people who have in the past, you're watching the weight scale and it fluctuates. It goes up 10 pounds, it goes down 10 pounds. Say something in the comments. Let us know if you may be one of those people who, one day you're here, next day you're not there anymore. And it could be very frustrating, for a lot of people. And so that's why we focus on waist loss. But there's more. Understanding the waist to hip ratio is absolutely integral to the longevity of life. As a matter of fact, When we're looking at root cause medicine, which can be associated with functional medicine, we're actually looking to target these areas because these areas are areas that typically have our vital organs, like our pancreas, like our liver, like our stomach. And so when we're monitoring the waistline and waist to hip ratio, this is much more indicative of total health. Okay. So these are some of the things that we want to cover. We want to talk about waist to hip ratio, functional medicine. We want to talk about the personalized nutrition approach. We want to talk about targeting supplements or movement and stress management and accountability and motivation. I see in the chat. That's right. Sometimes it goes up, sometimes it goes down. That's right. But we're going to talk about why today. Okay. So understanding your waist to hip ratio. So if you've ever heard of visceral fat versus subcutaneous fat, in all of our midsections, we have some layer of fat. And one of the layers of this fat is the subcutaneous fat. That's that squishy stuff, right? Subcutaneous fat that's, you can squeeze it with your fingers, you can pinch it. But there's this thing called visceral fat, and it is all the more important. This is that dense fat. It's hard, it's solid, it's something that you don't really feel when you pinch, but you can see it in your inches. And guess what? This is surrounding your organs. This is surrounding all of your vital organs, and it's trying to supply energy to restore that organ. What are you saying, Dr. Cooper? What I'm saying is if you have visceral fat that's surrounding your pancreas, your body is supplying as much energy as it can to help you to break down blood sugar and to secrete insulin. If you have visceral fat that's surrounding your stomach, you probably have something like leaky gut or some sort of imbalance, and your body needs more and more energy. And guess what it uses? It uses fat. So visceral fat is all the more important. In addition to that, visceral fat has a blood supply. So one of the weird reasons why you have that stubborn fat that's in the subcutaneous level, the squishy fat area, it doesn't have a blood supply. And so in order for us to lose it or gain it, it's kind of stubborn. It's not getting that constant exchange of fluid and blood flow that visceral fat does. And so for a lot of you, your early fats that you'll lose, especially on a program like ours, will be the visceral fat. This fat you don't see, you don't squeeze, okay? And you will start to lose this, and you'll start to see your inches decrease. You'll start to see you're losing weight as well when you lose your visceral fat. But it doesn't stop there. Your visceral fat and your waistline, waist to hip ratio is a keener tool for assessing your longevity, your metabolic health. In the weight scale, simply, it cannot help you differentiate the two. The other thing that happens is cardiovascular health is most associated with your waistline health as well. So what are you saying? I'm telling you, you can lose 40 pounds or 30 pounds and still be unhealthy from a cardiovascular perspective. You can still be at risk of cardiovascular disease like heart attack and stroke. But if you want to make a dent in this process, you have to make a dent in your midsection. Okay, so the weight scale alone is not the independent predictor, but the waistline is. If you have questions about this, go ahead and drop this in the chat here, and we'd love to answer them as we go or maybe at the end of the session. So let's talk a little bit about our approach. So in functional medicine, it's so important that we find the root cause. Okay, a lot of us are chasing our tails for years. We're fluctuating. We're going up and down on the scale. We're going up and down on our confidence and our disappointment. And so we want to find the root cause. And for a lot of people, this is a very intensive period. In the very beginning, we're going to ask you so many questions. We're going to ask for your labs. We want to make sure that everything that we're doing is based on the highest medical principle possible, and also is based on your history. So functional medicine, it is a patient-centered and a systems-based approach to seeking and identifying the actual root cause rather than just treating the symptom. Now, a lot of you've been treating the symptom. Okay, your symptom may be that you're constipated, so you're treating that. Okay, and you can have other things going on in your body. For some of you, your symptom could be, hey, I'm not sleeping well, so I'm going to take as much magnesium, melatonin as I possibly can. But what if you're having insulin spikes at night? For some of you, you're having sweat issues. Let's say you're sweating during eating time or around eating time. And what do? You spray that antiperspirant under your armpits. And unfortunately, that's creating extra toxins in the body because you should sweat. So we have to address the root cause. Now let's talk about some of these causes. Any idea what some of the causes can be of accumulating fat around the midsection? Guess what? It's already on your screen. So hormonal dysfunction is definitely one of the big ones. Go ahead and drop in the chat for me a specific hormone that you think may contribute to fat gain or belly fat. Some of these hormones, they're very hard for us to find because your traditional provider doesn't typically order these tests unless you poke or prod or you ask them to order it. And sometimes your insurance, they just don't cover it easily. And so sometimes that's a barrier, unfortunately. There we go. There's some good answers there. So stress may be causing hormone dysfunction. Menopause may be causing hormone dysfunction. These are all great answers. High estrogen, that could be causing hormone dysfunction. Let's talk about this a little further. So there's a hormone that's called cortisol. Cortisol is typically associated with our stress response. And so if we're having high stress, fight or flight, I'm trying to run away from a dinosaur, our body is going to need more sugar. And so what does it do? It upregulates how we use our insulin. And so our body is trying to use sugar to get away from this dinosaur as quickly as possible. But what's happened to us is we never come out of that fight or flight stage. We're constantly at a stress. We're constantly running from here to the next meeting, and we're on a 15-minute schedule and everything's fast. Well, what happens is over time, we develop things like adrenal fatigue. And adrenal fatigue could downregulate how we're actually managing our cortisol levels. The other thing about cortisol is a fat storage hormone. It's going to make you store more fat. So as long as your cortisol is elevated, you're going to store more fat. Guess where? Around your vital organs. So cortisol is huge. Another hormone that's important too, I already mentioned insulin. So insulin, which is emitted by the pancreas, is only there to help you to break down sugar. But if you've heard of something called insulin resistance, where the body's just tired, it's just worn out of constantly having to break down sugar, this is another thing that may make us store more fat around our belly line. Another thing is your thyroid. In the thyroid, I heard a person say in one of our classes, they said, man, those pesky thyroid or those pesky hormones. Thyroid is one of those things where a lot of people are over-medicated and undertreated. That's right, I said it. You can be over-medicated and undertreated. And that's because if you're not addressing the root cause of what's attacking your thyroid, be it something like Hashimoto's thyroiditis, which is a inflammatory autoimmune response that's attacking the thyroid directly. And you're taking drugs, and those drugs may not actually address the source of what's hurting the thyroid. Guess what? This turns into bigger issues downstream and down the road. So actually identifying what's hurting the thyroid goes a long, long, long way. Some of the other things, so our ovaries and our gonads are also responsible for giving us things like testosterone, giving us things like estrogen. If you've seen any of us gentlemen as we age and we start getting that pot belly, well, that pot belly, guess what it's full of? It's full of estrogen because our hormones are stored in fat. And so these are some of the causes when we're thinking about hormones. I could talk about hormones all day. Okay, inflammation. So chronic inflammation is also important because when there's a inflammatory response in the lining of the gut, what happens is you start to lose your ability to manage gas and to manage water. This is why you get bloated, because if you're inflamed in the lining of your gut and your colon's primary job is to make energy from gas and water, then this is one of the reasons why we're getting bloated. And it's interesting, a person could lose weight and they can still be getting bloated. So it's very important we address inflammation too. Okay, and that inflammation, it could be challenging how we actually break down our micronutrients. So you could be eating all of the right things, but if you have inflammation in your gut, you're not going to absorb the key nutrients that you need for energy, to sleep well, or the key nutrients to feel well, like serotonin. Okay. Gut dysbiosis. And so if there's an imbalance in the gut, undoubtedly there's going to be some sort of issue with belly fat. Actually, your gut microbes, your healthy gut microbes, could be one of the first areas that creates insulin sensitivity. There are some gut microbes that actually help you to break down sugar. And if you've killed all of that with bacteria, oftentimes, or antibiotics, oftentimes you just simply cannot break down sugar the way that you should. And another thing is sleep deprivation. So, has anybody heard of something called ghrelin? Grilling's super, super important. But guess what happens? If we're not sleeping enough, our body is going to need energy. What's the best way for our body to get energy? It's going to create more ghrelin. And ghrelin is something it's a hormone that's stimulated in your actual stomach. And that's what fires your hunger. So if you think about it, if I'm not sleeping well, my body's having to make a decision. And it says, hey, doc, you need more energy. You're going to have to get it by way of calories. And so the less you sleep, the more likely you are to get more ghrelin produced in your stomach around the clock, and the more hungry you're going to be. And lastly, the toxic overload. Some of you may have experienced this. You're on the right diet. You're exercising. You're taking medication. You're taking supplements. And you're still not losing weight. You may not have a disease, but you're still not losing weight. Any idea why that would be? Yep, it's on your screen. So we have so many toxins that we deal with, be it plastics, be it environmental toxic, being some of the food dyes that we consume. Maybe it's even the dyes that are in your hair products. We have so many toxins that we're dealing with on a day-to-day basis. If your liver is congested with toxins, your liver is having to make a decision. It has to decide between breaking down food and detoxifying. Guess what? It's not very good at doing both at the same time. So this may be another reason why a person could be storing fat around their midsection. And you know these people. They're in your community. They may be in your household. They're doing everything right. But they cannot break down fat effectively if their liver is spending so much time trying to detoxify from something. And it can be a lot of different things. Okay, so these are some of the resources that we provide. We provide, of course, standard blood panel tests. We can go a very long way with the blood tests that you already have. We also provide a comprehensive examination. I cannot tell you how many people we've had come into the office. We do an exam and we find goiters, we find all sorts of things. We find swollen lymph nodes, all of these obvious signs of bodily issue or dysfunctions that typically are overlooked. And so a comprehensive exam is very, very key. Abdominal scan. So if you're a person who has if you're a person who has some sort of issue with your liver, like cirrhosis, or maybe you have non-fatty liver disease, or maybe you have a fatty liver, this is important to know. So doing an abdominal scan, fasting, insulin, and glucose, your cortisol rhythm. You may not know this. When you go and you ask your provider to test your cortisol levels, they'll say, yep, sure, we'll do that, Mr. and Mrs. Jones. And oftentimes they'll just test one period at a time, where your cortisol has a wave. It's supposed to go in an up wave and a down slope during a certain period of time of the day. So just simply testing the cortisol at one specific time of day does not tell them enough. And it definitely, that's not good enough for you either. So we want to know more about that. You want to know more about your gut microbiome. And so we do a stool test to test for this. Want to know about your sex hormones, like your testosterone, like your estrogen, which could be contributing to belly fat, and then your nutritional deficiencies, which are so, so important to us. Now, what are we going to do? So these are some of the ways that we approach a person who's having some of the conditions that I mentioned. One of the things that we do is for a lot of people, we've got to get rid of the inflammation. If you're eating a food that's inflammatory, and it may be a corn product, it may be a soy product, it may be a tomato product, a wheat product. Yep, the list goes on. And then for specific people with sensitivities, if you're getting inflammation in your gut, like I already mentioned, this is the first thing we need to address, because you're going to get bloated from any and everything if you have inflammation in your gut. You could be trying to do the right thing, still getting bloating. The next thing is we want to identify food sensitivities. So there's a lot of people who don't know that you can be sensitive or intolerant or allergic to gluten. So that's three different responses that you could be having to the same food product. And these things don't just traditionally, they're not traditionally ordered by your provider. And so if you're having a food sensitivity, you're likely going to have more inflammation in the gut, lethargy. You don't feel like exercising, and your rest is ruined. And so having a diet that's void of food sensitivity goes a long way too. The next thing is we want to help you to balance your macronutrients. Some of you, you're on low carb diets. Some of you are on low fat diets. That may be the worst thing you can do, is to get rid of fats. I'll tell you why. For a lot of people, when they get rid of fats, they're always hungry. Why is this? Because the actual valve of your stomach opens and closes to a couple different things. One, acid levels. But another thing is how much lipids cross by through this sphincter. So your stomach will close or open based on how much fat you give your body. This is why they want you to eat healthy fats like avocados, like olive oil. These are very healthy fats like fish. This may make you way fuller than you would be eating a bunch of carrots. Nothing against carrots. Carrots are great, but you're not going to get full off of carrots because they have no lipids. They have no fats in them. So this is so important that we help you to balance so that you can be full for longer periods of time. The next thing we want to do is help you to stabilize your blood sugar. If you're having unstable blood sugar, this is going to ruin your sleep. This is going to ruin your mood. This is going to ruin your metabolism. And so this is so important that we help you to stabilize as well. Next, what are we going to do? The next step is we're going to make sure that we target the specific supplements for the needs that you have. Now, some people, they do really well without supplements, but a lot of us who are living right here in the United States, unfortunately, we have to supplement our diet with healthy nutrition and healthy vitamins, because the land is barren, the soil is depleted. There's just so many things and so many reasons. And so based on your labs, we will devise a plan of supplements that may help you to improve your insulin sensitivity. Things like berberine, things like Ceylon cinnamon, things like Jemima. We may help you to support your gut health after we get rid of those inflammatory foods. We may want to line your gut with things like L-glutamine, carnosine, like zinc. These are all things that may soothe the lining of the stomach, and these are through supplement. We may want to help you to reduce your cortisol with things like rhodiola or things like ashwagandha. Okay. We may also want to help you to improve and reduce the inflammation that's in your gut. And there's so many different supplements and key nutrients that we use to help you to decrease that inflammation there. All righty. Now it's time to get you moving. Now, one of my classes that I host is called Exercise Smart. Some of you are over exercising and you're just ruining your body. Your sleep is worse. You're creating adrenal fatigue by over exercising, and then you're creating this deficit in your body where you're getting these cravings all the time. And so exercising smart goes a very, very long way too. So what do I mean by this? I mean that for each body type, there's a specific type of exercise that's best for blasting that belly fat. That's right. I said it just like that. It's best for blasting that belly fat. Say that 5 times fast. So the first thing you want to do, you want to make sure that when you're exercising, that you're exercising within a fat burning window. Okay. A fat burning window could be different depending on, a fat burning heart rate per minute window could be different for everybody. It's going to be based on your age group. It's going to be based on your weight, based on your resting heart rate. But the first thing you want to do is find out what zone is your fat burning zone. And you may be surprised that it's a lot lower than you'd expect. I have a lot of people who exercise on a program that we have, and they're like, Doc, if I didn't barely make it to my car, if I didn't throw up, if I didn't get cramps, I don't feel like I exercise. And it creates bigger issues for them. And what you will find is that your fat burning zone a lot of times is about 20 to 40 beats less, 20 to 40 heartbeats less than what you've been exercising at. So finding out what that is first could be very, very important. The next step, we want to know what your body type is. If you're ectomorph, you want to do resistance training. This is going to be best for building lean muscle. If you're a mesomorph, you're going to be a person who needs a combination between resistance training, like high intense resistance training, and you're also going to need cardio training as well. So if you're a mesomorph, and look it up, that's what you need. If you're a endomorph, which many of the people that I work with, they are endomorphs, you're going to be a person who does a lot better with things like cardio exercise. And be mindful of the beats per minute that I mentioned. Okay, now the next thing to think about is accountability is huge. One of the reasons why our programs have been so successful is because there's built-in layers of accountability. We give you a health coach. Matter of fact, you already met her. Kaylee is a fantastic health coach. She goes a very, very long way at taking the things that I give you that are very macro and making them more micro and making it more form fitted for your lifestyle, making it easy, making it accessible and more cost efficient. And so accountability is important. We can do that on our end, but on your end, you need a person in your corner as well. So accountability is huge when it comes to trying to make a lifestyle modification and a lifestyle change. Look, if you do these things, if you take these steps, I know these will help you. These have helped a lot of people. I know these will be a big help and a big blessing to you, like it has for a lot of people here in Volusia County. And what I would like to do now is I would like to answer a couple of the questions that I have on here before we go into the next phase. These are some really good questions. And so I'm going to go ahead and start off with one here. Would fasting help inflammation? I love fasting. Fasting is huge. Fasting is kind of like a reset for your gut health. It's a reset for your brain health. And really, it's a reset for mental clarity. Now, I cannot promise when you fast in the beginning that it's going to feel great the first time you do it. For a lot of people, it's stressful if they don't have a plan. But if you have a plan, you can decrease inflammation and swelling. And for a lot of people who are even eating really good foods, they find that when they fast for, intermittent periods, maybe 12 hours, 14 hours, 16 hours, they decrease swelling really quickly, like within a couple days. And so this is one of my favorite ideas here. Okay, what are some symptoms that tell you have too much inflammation? That's a great question. If you are going to the stall and you're using the restroom and you're going to poop, that's right, we're talking about poop. This is a safe place here. If you're going to poop and you're not getting a sinking torpedo, this is an indication that there may be some inflammation in your gut or maybe in your colon. That's right, I said a sinking tornado. That's very, very important. When you have a healthy stool, it should be solid, but it shouldn't be a rock, and it should sink to the bottom of the toilet. When you flush the toilet, it shouldn't slide against the base of the toilet. That's an indicator that there may be some sort of inflammation that's taking place in the gut. Inflammation in the gut also shows up in the arms. And so if you're a person with consistent arthritis and pain and swelling in your joints, this is an indication that this could be coming from the gut as well. Okay, another really good question here. Okay, how do we find what our fat burning zone is? And so you can do a very quick Google search and you can put in, what is my fat burning heart rate? And whatever site that you're on, it will ask you about your age, It'll ask you about your resting heart rate, which you can track on something like this. And it'll give you an actual breakdown of your fat burning zone when you exercise. And it's so easy to find. Okay. Alrighty. So the next thing that I want to cover with you all, if you're a person who, let's say you're a person, you've tried some of these things that I've talked about, but you've had varying levels of results, or maybe you just never really got over the hump or got over the edge. And maybe it's because you couldn't convince your provider to do the right test for you, or maybe you've been advocating for yourself for so long that you kind of thrown in the towel. You're not alone. There's actually a lot of people who have dealt with this. You may be a person who's had hormone imbalances or inflammation or gut issues. You may be a person who deals with sleep. And I'm saying it sounds so easy when I say it, but maybe you need some resources or some help on how you can actually make this more feasible or practical for you. Well, we have a program that's based out of Volusia County and Seminole County, and it's called the Waist Watcher Challenge. In our Waist Watcher Challenge, we have helped individuals lose copious amounts of inches, so many inches. Matter of fact, this is not updated. We just got another sheet in today, and our current group has lost even more inches. And so you can add about 20 more inches, midsection inches, to this number that you see on the screen. They've also lost over 240 pounds just in 3 months. So this is something that can work for you. It is very detailed and it is very personalized. We create a personalized approach that's based on diets, that's based on supplements, is based on exercise. So everything that I mentioned before. These are some of the things that are included. You get a personal consultation with myself. We do a in-office exam consultation. I look over all of your lab work and relevant documentation together. In addition to that, you'll receive after that, you receive a full report from us, which is where you get your diet plan, your exercise, your supplements. You get a follow-up strategy. And so we do a 12-week session, coaching session with you to follow up with all of the little things that come up that you have questions about. Now, you may be asking, okay, losing weight is great, but I think my weight is great. These are what I call the side benefits of the program. Most of the people in this program, they improve their weight, they improve their blood sugar, their blood pressure, they improve their energy, they have better skin and nails, they have better digestion and better sleep. So these are some of the side benefits. We've had people in the group who've dropped their blood pressure by 20 to 30 points. We've had people who lost 50 points or 50 pounds of weight. We've had people drop their A1C by 2 points, which is a large jump. And so I do think that this is a great program that we have. It is a 12-week program. You may be asking, how can I be a part of this program? I'm glad that you asked. So there's a link right here on the screen. And what this takes you to is our complimentary, our free consultation. And so you may still be on the fence. You may be wondering, okay, is this the right program for me? Don't worry. We've got you covered. If you scan this link right here, it'll take you to our consultation link and you book it and you get a phone call from us and we'll answer any questions that you have about the program that we're doing here in downtown DeLand. Okay. And there's also a phone number here. So if you're already on your phone and you can't do the scan, there's a phone number right here that you could use to hop into that. And you can just text us, hey, I want to know more about the Waist Watcher. Okay. Now, I do want to answer a couple more questions before I hop off of here. And so if you have some more questions, you can drop them in there. And I'm going to leave this on the screen. That's a great question. How do you know if you are meso or endo? So a mesomorph typically has a little bit more of a muscular build. Now, muscular build really is when you have broader shoulders and a broader hip ratio. And so these people typically look kind of like a Coke bottle. A endomorph, they typically have broader shoulders and thinner waistline. So they may be shaped kind of like a cocktail glass. So that's the difference between the two. Mesomorph and endomorph. Mesomorph, Coke bottle. Endomorph, cocktail glass. You guys leave the cocktails alone, though. This is not an endorsement for cocktails, okay? Well, hey, folks, I hope you got some really good information. I wanted to hop on here for about 30 minutes while I have you. If you would please, anywhere that you found us today, if it's Facebook, if it's YouTube, hop on there. Go ahead and like and subscribe so you can get more content. We have information on there about fasting. It's a one-on-one about fasting. It'll tell you everything you need to know. We have information on there about why people are bloating. We have so much information and material on there, and I would love for you to check it out as well. So, all right, I've been Dr. Cooper. I look forward to speaking with you soon. Go ahead and click on that link, and we will see you next time.